Today I'd like to talk about an unpopular opinion. Perhaps copper will soon be a better buy than a sell. March 2020 will undoubtedly go down as being the worst month in decades or longer for most stock indices and commodities. However, where there is pain, there might also be opportunity. In my view, the copper market is a prime example of this. Before we get started, I just want to talk about the risks involved in trading futures. Hopefully, everybody by now knows that there are no guarantees you're going to make money, and there's definitely no guarantees you're at least not going to lose money. Futures and options trading is leveraged, and it's highly risky. It's not for everybody. COVID-19 related panic selling caused the front month copper futures to immediately erase 20% of its value. Further, the $2.60 per pound price going into the global asset collapse was already considered to be relatively inexpensive on many standards. Here we're looking at a monthly chart in copper. I like to take a step back and look at the big picture before I try to attempt to predict what might happen in the short run. This chart dates all the way back to 2004. You can see that aside from 2008, which we all know what was going on in the world in 2008, copper prices really haven't spent much time below $2. In fact, $2 has been a pretty good price floor in copper. The current market price, as we're talking, is a little above $2. We're probably around the $2.15 to $2.20 area. It's fluctuating. So we're on the cheap side. We can't rule out a test of $2. We can't even rule out a dip a little below $2 because, to be honest, there's a lot of uncertainty. We all know that. We don't know how long the coronavirus situation is going to last, what the end damage is going to be, so on and so forth. So there's a lot of guessing here, just like there is in any other asset class. However, we can see the last time that copper tested below $2 or at $2, the market quickly rallied up into the 330 area, and actually that was just in the last couple of years. It bottomed out around 2016, and by 2018 we were trading well above $3. So is it going to be messy in the short run? Absolutely. But in the long run, there's probably some good opportunity in the copper market. Let's take a look at the weekly chart. On a weekly chart, we can see exactly what happened in 2016. Now, sometimes in commodities, it's a waiting game. The moves don't happen right away. That would be extremely convenient if they did, but they don't. Sometimes the market finds support, holds it, and trades sideways for a little while. That's exactly what we saw in 2016. But what we can see is there was a floor around $2. The second line here is about 193, and then I've also drawn a line around the 185 area. Now, the way markets work is once everybody starts believing the market's going to do one thing, it usually does the other. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And I think it's fair to say most people assume the majority of assets, including copper, are going lower. That's what piques our interest into thinking, well, maybe short run, maybe it will, but long run, maybe most of the selling is already behind us. With that said, markets are also sadistic. They're mean. They cause the maximum amount of pain to the maximum amount of people. Unfortunately, that's just how they operate. It's the MO. So with that in mind, we're assuming a lot of traders will probably put their stops in the obvious place, below 195, below 190, thinking that they're giving it room to breathe, and if $2 holds, they hope they're still in the trade. But what happens a lot of times when you see these multi-year highs and lows is the market makes sure it runs all the stops. And so if that happens, we could see prices in the 180 to 185 area in copper. If seen, though, those would be probably great buys. This is the first time we've seen the RSI, which is the Relative Strength Index in copper, dip below 30 on both a weekly and monthly chart since 2008. So there's definitely no guarantees that an oversold market will recover, but more often than not, that's exactly what happens. So keep an eye on that. On a side note, obviously, if you look at the news, if you read any newspapers, forums, watch TV, we're only hearing the bad news, and there's a lot of bad news. But a lot can happen in 30 days. If there's one thing that we have learned throughout this fiasco is the world can change in 30 days. 30 days ago, we were not talking about calamity. We were talking about prosperity. And now things have changed dramatically. So as impossible as it seems, if the news out of China is truly accurate, and that's a big if because we know China's not been forthcoming in almost all of their dealings. But let's say that it's not as positive as China's making us believe, but it's actually on the mend. If that's the case, and this coronavirus situation that we're in lasts weeks or months, not years, then there could be some really good buying opportunities in the markets. Of course, it's not without risk, so be cautious. But again, just as a reminder, things can change dramatically in 30 days. Maybe by May 1st, we'll be looking at a different world. If you're interested in trading copper or any other commodity, we offer futures and options trading. We are a boutique brokerage firm. We're DeCarly Trading. You can visit our website, decarlytrading.com. There's a lot of information, educational material, videos. We have about 40, maybe even closer to 45 or 50 educational videos on the site. They're absolutely free. We want to make sure people understand what they're getting into, assuming they decide to get into it, what the risks are, so on and so forth. And if you want to take it a step further, I recommend higher probability commodity trading. It can be purchased at any major book outlet. Amazon is the cheapest, but this book will take you through the entire process of analyzing the markets, putting a trading strategy together, and understanding the risks and rewards. So once again, we are DeCarly Trading. If there's anything we can do for you, let us know.